right to the shortstop off contact. Hayward was headed home. He's in a rundown, and he avoided the tag, and all hands are safe.
Welcome back to the Rundown Podcast. My name is Abe Hicks. Back with my man Dylan Kearns. We are back better than ever. This is our third episode of the season. We are hot and rolling into this MLB season early on. Dylan, how you doing?
You know, I'm doing good. It's good to be back talking baseball. Like on a 2-week basis, it's nice to just catch up, look around things around the league, give our takes, and just talk baseball. It's a wonderful sport. Everything's going well. There's tons of storylines, and we should dive into them.
Let's get right into it. Speaking of the best team in baseball right now, it is nobody other than, who would have thought this going into opening day? It's the Tampa Bay Rays. They're off to a great start. They're hot. They are rolling. What they're doing right now is something we haven't seen since the 1987 Milwaukee Brewers, starting the season out 10-0. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Tampa Bay Rays are 10-0 to start the season, but they are frauds. They are frauds. Look at the teams that they have played so far this season. The Washington Nationals, the Oakland A's, and the Boston Red Sox. Three of the worst teams in baseball. Yes, their pitching is exceptional, but that lineup is going to fall back down to earth. Let's pump the brakes on the Rays before we award them the Commissioner's Trophy in early April.
Not a bad take, but I mean, it's good. It's glad you're not overreacting like some of your TikToks on opening day. But you look at the Tampa Bay Rays, and you know what? I'll be honest, Abraham. I give up. I'm done thinking about the Tampa Bay Rays, because every single year you think, all right, this is where they take their step back. Kevin Cash just rolls out 10 in a row. He just rolls it out there. He's starting Christian Bethancourt, Harold Ramirez, Luke Raley. He's starting all these no-name guys that are just like on rosters that probably would be, I don't know where they would be beyond the Tampa Bay Rays starting lineup, but they find ways to win baseball games with that. They're still starting openers. They had Beeks go 2 innings on Monday night, and then you bring in your Fleming behind him. It's so weird how they win baseball games, but they keep doing it. They've won 10 in a row.
It truly makes no sense. This was their lineup today, all right? This is just hilarious. Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lau, Randy Arozarena, Wander Franco, Luke Raley, Josh Lowe. Wow, that's kind of confusing. Christian Bethancourt, like you said, Taylor Walls, and Jose Siri. I do not understand how this lineup is scoring runs. They're playing out of their minds right now.
Siri's on an iPhone. He's not in a MLB lineup. He's not an MLB center fielder. He's an iPhone makeup thing. The whole Siri thing. Exactly. I do have a take. There's one silver lining that I do believe with the Tampa Bay Rays. I know it's an early sample size. Wander Franco is finally showing that power we wanted to see. He's got 4 ding-dongs already so far this year. He's hitting above 300. Maybe he's not saying that he's the reason they're having this success, because obviously you need someone in that lineup to do it. Like I said, when you're starting Bethancourt and all these other clowns, I'm saying Wander Franco is having a fantastic start to his year, and he was kind of underwhelmed last year after getting his big contract. That's something to watch as the season goes on. If the Rays keep winning games, it'll be because of Wander Franco.
Yes, he has definitely played a huge part in their early on success so far this season. Let's remember last year, what did he really struggle with? He had injuries. That's what held him back last year. Like I was saying, this offense has been playing out of its mind right now. Dylan, they have hit more home runs this year than they have allowed. There's just no way the Rays can keep this up. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. How about that?
I'm not going to say the Rays are frauds. Like I said, I'll shit on their lineup all day I want. I'm not going to say they're frauds, because every freaking year they make the playoffs, and you don't know how they get there. I'll tell you what, Kevin Cash finds ways to get things done. You get rid of your ace in like 2 straight years. Blake Snell leaves, whatever. Everyone walks out of that building. You don't have Glass now for basically 2 years now, whatever he's been doing with his elbow. but you're still finding ways to win. You get just a random, I mean, not random, but McClanahan pitched as well. Rasmussen goes back into the rotation last year. He's now an ace of a staff. Like, I don't understand how they do it, but they keep doing it. So that's going to make me say consistency over the last few years is going to yield me from saying, yeah, they're frauds.
No, I hear you. It's just I can't look I just can't look at that lineup and think this is gonna win the AL East. I just can't put my brain there. And yes, that front office is amazing. That's why every year teams want to pick apart that front office, because I don't know what is in that water down in St. Pete. I don't know what is in that Florida air, but they continue to they prove everybody wrong, and they're always in contention. And at that point, you just got to give them respect. It's wild. It truly is wild.
It is. It's something else. That's for damn sure.
All right. So moving on here. We've seen the resurgence, I would say, of a big time catching prospect by the name of Adley Rushman. He hit another home run today. He's been playing really well. He had a great cup of coffee last year in the MLB. But you would say, Dylan, that he is an anomaly. He is not of the norm of big time catching prospects being successful. Dylan, what is you have a take on this? On catchers, I will say.
I do. I don't like catching prospects. And the reason I don't is because the ones that usually are successful are not these top 10. Like, everyone wants to draft a catcher top 5. There's always one catcher that's like, oh my gosh, he's going to be the next thing. Sure, you'll randomly get a nice Joe Mauer. You'll get a Buster Posey from here and there. But I'm going to read you some busts that have been catchers over the last few years. And these aren't just my opinion. I think you guys can take your own opinion here. Let's go back to the year 2018. I'm looking at MLB.com prospects, top catching prospects 2018. Francisco Mejia, hell of a catcher, huh? Switch hitter. How's he been? I'll tell you what, he's starting for the damn Rays, so maybe more power to him. But you look at Francisco Mejia, he was a bust. Carson Kelly, he's all right. Keeper Ruiz, wait and see. Jake Rogers, Jorge Alfaro, I don't know if he's a backup catcher in Boston now. Beyond that, you go to 2017. Where's Zach Collins? Zach Collins isn't here. All these big name catching prospects. And I'm not just naming names here. I'm looking at it as a whole. Every single year, these guys are overhyped. I'm just going to put it that way. Some of these catchers are overhyped, and it's tough to get there through the process. You have some catchers that are just defensive based, and you think the battle come, or some can hit, and then the defense isn't there. And there's a lot to go through. You have to handle a big league staff, understand the transition of the game to the major league level. A lot of these guys just can't get it done.
You got to also add Joey Bart to that list.
Joey Bart, I'm not ready to give up on him yet, but
he's been around for a while now.
He has. I mean, Gary Sanchez was one. He had a few good years. Elias Diaz.
Yeah, but but Sanchez wasn't a big catching prospect, though. We're talking Joey Bart. Joey Bart was a top 5 pick.
Luis Campusano's been on there for a while.
Yeah.
Miguel Amaya was there with the Cubs. These guys just.
No, I hear you.
When they do get to 27, 28 years old.
Yeah. No, I hear you. It is interesting. Now that makes me think probably the catching position is probably the hardest to gauge and scout. Even looking at who's Pittsburgh, who they just drafted #1 a few years ago. Henry Davis. Yes. Let me check on how he's doing. Henry Davis.
I mean, it's every year. It's every year you see these guys come through.
He's off to a slow start this year, batting .200. Last year it wasn't too bad. OPS of 887, had 13 home runs, 51 RBIs.
You can't really gauge him until you see the AAA stats. You got to get them
right.
through the system before you get that. He's a little too young to gauge, but there's.
Altoona is AA, right?
Yes.
Altoona, the curve. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. What were you saying?
Like, you just look at some of these guys that I'm just saying, like, you have to give them time through the minor league system. You can't rush them to the big leagues. Now, Adley Rutschman's been the only exception. I mean, him, a couple others that have been able to do it, but there's just so much stock in these catching prospects. And every single year, people get their hopes up for thinking, oh my gosh, we got our guy, when he'll have a few good years at that, maybe a good defensive piece. Austin Hedges was all over the place. Everyone was raving about Austin Hedges coming up. That guy, he had to go to Pittsburgh. His batting average is well below 200 across the course of his career. He's a good defensive catcher, but he's not what everyone thought he'd be, which is a 30-homer guy that's playing Gold Glove catcher and turning into the best thing we've ever seen. That's what everyone expects from these catchers when they draft them, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, I think now, over the past, 7, 10 years, teams have been really focused on prioritizing defensive catching. Like, that's in their lineup, they are completely fine with sacrificing that catcher spot in the lineup if they can't hit, but they got to be able to defend. You ever felt like that? You ever see
Yeah,
that? Yeah,
that's definitely been the case for many years. But it's nice to have an offensive guy there too.
yeah, I agree, and I feel like we don't really see that a lot anymore within the catching position, but I think that's going to change. As we all know, a lot of the rules within the game is constantly changing. Baseball is adapting and evolving, and there's been a lot of talk about the automatic strike zone, and I think that will play a huge effect on things that we currently don't even realize. The automated
Yeah.
strike zone means the automated can't even talk. The automated strike zone means that the art of framing is gone, meaning that the emphasis on having great defensive catching, that's not going to matter as much anymore. Think about all the great game callers behind the plate. They were exceptional at framing pitches, getting those balls that were getting those strikes, balls that were called strikes, but were out of the strike zone. So I think that's going to have a huge effect on years to come.
I disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree in one factor, because you're not getting rid of a defensive catcher. You're not saying, you know what, I'll take an offensive guy now that framing's gone. Framing's a big piece of becoming a good defensive catcher. If you still can't block, if you can't call a game, if you can't throw out runners, if you can't handle a young pitching staff or any pitching staff in general, it's not going to matter. You're still going to want that defensive guy every single day of the week. So a few couple strike calls here and there, I don't think changes or moves the needle. And whoa, yeah, now that position can become offensive, when really you're just losing one factor of the game.
So you don't think it is as big of a deal as I see it, correct?
Not really. I mean, sure, you're going to steal, like right now the good ones can steal strikes, but if you still have a rocket arm behind the plate,
that's a huge deal to me. If you can
I don't
steal
think
strikes,
so. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be a ball or a strike. If you can't block a ball, if you can't block a 99-mile-an-hour fastball with a runner on third and like game on the line, then that's going to be your biggest Achilles heel. Right. Going back to Gary Sanchez, that guy can't block a baseball. That guy's one of the worst defensive catchers there. But you're like, you know what? I'll take his bat just because he can frame a few pitches. I don't think that's a big factor.
He can't frame either. I'm gonna just say that he sucks at framing. But I think, just like you mentioned, hey, that 99-mile-per-hour fastball that got spiked, and the importance of blocking that in the ninth inning, I think it's the same big deal as if Garrett Cole on the mound throwing an outside pitch, and Jose Trevino catching that corner, bringing that mid in just a snag, and getting called strike 3. You're out of a jam. I don't know. That's just.
It's not a bad take, but I just disagree with it.
All right. Moving on.
You know what intrigues me?
What intrigues
you? I heard this on the radio the other day, and it really it's been eating at me. It's really spun my opinion and a take here. I was listening to I believe it was the Cubs on the radio, and I was listening to the Cubs game, and they were talking about, you got Cincinnati and the Reds or whatever, and they were talking and said, despite having a bad ball club, if you really think about this, you could have one of the worst ball clubs in the league. If you have 3 good young pitchers, they could arguably win any series. And I'm not saying this is on the Reds side, but they are ones that have 3 good young pitchers: Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and Graham Ashcraft, who shoved Monday night against Atlanta. I'm telling you, that guy's 1-0 on the year going into the start. He's pitched pretty well. He's adapted to a nice cutter. But bottom line is, you look at those guys, you catch them on a series. They competed in that series against the Phillies. They were National League champions last year. You have those guys. The offense will come later. You saw the Guardians. I'm not saying the Guardians were in the same spot. They had 3 big pitchers: Shane Bieber, you had Tristan McKenzie, and Cal Quantrill. 3 big guys, and they started shoving down the stretch. Next thing you know, you're winning a lot of ball games, and you go from there. I think there's a strategy to be said there. Get 3 solid pitchers, maybe young, and then the rest of it will come with a rebuild.
Interesting take. You know the saying, what wins in the postseason? Pitching, defense, and timely hitting. Pitching is vital and very important than the series. It's great having those starters. But what plagued them tonight in Atlanta? The bullpen. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So those starting pitchers, you can compete in games, you can contend. But if you don't got the rest of the pitching figured out, that could definitely screw you over. Same with the lineup. What did we see last year with the Guardians? They had all the pitching, they couldn't swing worth of crap.
Yeah,
and that cost
fair.
them.
But what I'm saying, they still won it in
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a good foundation. It's a good foundation.
I think it's a winning foundation. I think it is, because maybe not the Astros to an extent, but they had 3 young arms. You had Framber Valdez, you had Christian Javier, Jose Urquidy, you had Luis Garcia mix in there as well. There's a couple arms that get it done. The Braves, they won. Kyle Wright was in that rotation. You had a veteran. So there's ways to go about winning, not just divisions, but World Series with this strategy too. And you look at the Miami Marlins. I still don't understand the Pablo Lopez trade. That was a terrible move. You bring in someone who doesn't fit today's baseball. Not saying that by any means Luis Arias is a bad hitter. He's one of the best contact hitters. But you take someone out of that rotation. I think if you were Miami, you had Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez, and Trevor Rogers in that rotation. 3 young arms under cost-controllable talent. You could have spent money elsewhere and build that team back to where they were just a few years, like maybe 2015-16 era. That's where you could have won ball games, is bring that rebuild process back up. You have young talent. The pitching is one area where I think you could really win if you have 3 young star aces.
You're right. No, I agree with you. That's you had some valid points.
Milwaukee Brewers did it. Milwaukee Brewers did it. You saw I'm telling you, Brandon Woodruff, Corbin Burns, and
Freddie Peralta.
Lauer. Freddie Peralta, another one. Yeah, Peralta for that 1 year. Eric Lauer the last few. I'm telling you, those 3 guys essentially got him there with a nice bullpen piece and a former slugger that randomly disappeared off the face of the earth in Christian Yelich.
Yeah,
but
what happened? What happened to that guy?
Their lineup's not sexy, but I'm telling you, you have those 3 pitchers. Maybe they're not all aces, but 3 young cross-controllable talent. You can spread your money elsewhere and go win ball games.
Man, I'm right there with you on that one. Woo, I like it. What'd you think of Nico Horner tonight, walking off?
Nico's I really like him. It's always been a durability thing with me when it comes to him. I think he's a good hitter. He puts the ball in play, hits it hard, line drive guy. And that'll play at Wrigley when the wind's blowing out. But if he could be an Andres Jimenez type from the right side, hit about 17, maybe 290, that's a good ball player right there.
That's an all-star level infielder, second baseman.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, even the Cubs infield. I mean,
Dansby's been off to a great start. I still think third base is a big question mark. You can't have magical play there. First of all, he can't throw the ball across the infield. Second of all, every high chopper goes over his head. And fourth of all, when it comes offensively, the guy, he could put the ball in play. He doesn't have speed. He stole a base on Monday night. But I'm telling you, hit the ball, it barely gets out of the infield. He wouldn't hit a home run at Georgetown Little League. I'm telling you. And that's a short porch. I used to hit him out there as a 10-year-old. but Nick Madrigal can't right now, and he's a starting third baseman. I think Patrick Wisdom's all right. He can find ways to play. He hits the ball hard and plays solid defense, but that third base spot's going to be a question mark for a little bit for the Cubbies.
Yeah, I think wow, that was really funny. I think that addressing third base, if they are in winning contention, I would say if they're playing for a wild card spot, possibly trade for a third baseman to fill that hole.
You know what, Abraham?
What?
I'll tell you what.
What?
I wouldn't be opposed to moving Ian Happ to third base.
Ooh.
And here's why. You put Ian Happ at third base on this Chicago Cubs roster the way it is. Lock him up. You got your whole infield there. You got Happ, Swanson, Horner. First base will figure itself out. You have prospects galore in the outfield coming up pretty soon. You got Seiya locked up in right field for a while.
PCA.
Bellinger will be gone. Doesn't matter. Pete Crow Armstrong's in a man center probably next year and beyond. You still have Brennan Davis. You have Kevin Alcantara, Alex Canario. I mean, you have prospects galore. Canario hit 38 bombs last year in the minors. I'm telling you, there are prospects galore in the outfield to where if you want to lock up Ian Happ, I don't think left field's a spot for him. Third base is a nice spot for Ian Happ. Move him over there.
All right, GM Kearns, GM General Manager Dylan Kearns. I don't have to relay that message to the Cubbies. Wow, that turned into a Cubs podcast the past 10 minutes.
Yeah.
No, but it's all good. It is all good. Man, so unfortunate news. O'Neal Cruz, man. Sad to see that guy hurt. I mean, talk about he was the Pirates' best player. Well, one of their best players.
Exciting.
Like, yeah.
What do you mean?
The most exciting players.
He's a ticket seller. No one's paying to go see Brian
Reynolds. Yeah.
No one's going to Pirate games anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably shouldn't say that.
Just for the view.
O'Neal Cruz, he's exciting, dude. Like that guy, he throws the ball hard, he hits it hard, just piss missiles off the bat, runs the base as well. But I mean, it was. I think I'll take this take here, saying that it was a bad slide on his part. I mean, you can't slide that. Put yourself in a bad spot.
I know. I'm with you. He has to. That's him being a youngster for you. Sure, next time he'll make a better decision.
They said
so
10 weeks for him.
So this upcoming week, news-wise, the Mets battling some injuries. It's looking like Verlander maybe on the downfall. We'll see. See if the Rays can turn it around. Who knows? Who else
turn around and start losing game?
Yeah, what is the dude? I was gonna mention this earlier. Dude, the Angels lineup, they can smash.
Yeah, give it time.
Okay, so you're not a believer.
I'm not a believer. You're still, I mean, I don't know.
I like Logan on MLB The Show.
Yeah, that's a baseball video game. Everyone can rank with a good team like that. You remember the Orioles in 2016? You had Trumbo and freaking everyone else. You could just run through there and hit tanks. They were fun to play with. They didn't win ball games.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I tell you what, Hunter Renfroe, great addition. That was a fantastic addition to that baseball team.
And I don't know why he keeps getting rated.
I don't know.
Guy's like a 264, 28, 30 bomb hitter.
Same with Gio Urshela, man. Can't believe the Yankees gave that up for IKF and Josh Donaldson. That still burns me to this day. I lose sleep over that trade. Man. And then yeah. So yeah, if the Angels, man, if Otani and Trout can stay healthy, man, I want to see him in the playoffs. I really do. But yeah, so that's all we have for you on this week's edition of the Rundown Podcast. We are growing every single day, so please, with all your support, like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Heart this on Spotify if you're listening. You follow us on all of our social medias, different profiles. If you are new to us, we have a lot of big plans this baseball season. We'll be posting a lot of content every single day, but we appreciate your support. Smash the like, smash the subscribe. We're trying to grow grow this to reach baseball fans all over the world. So thank you for tuning in. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another banging podcast. Peace out and have a good one.